I didn't see it there last night. Nama Shreshtam Manumapi Sachiputra Matra Swarupam Rupam Tasya Grajam Uruparim Maturim Gostavatim Radhakundam Girivaram Aho Radhika Madhavasam Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi. Reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhakti Leela, chapter 25, entitled The Residents of Varanasi Become Vaishnavas. The residents of Varanasi are headed by the sannyasi section of the city. Prakashananda and his acolytes, who have now become Vaishnavas by the influence of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Conversion from Mayavad to Bhakti. Atheism to, not atheism, but Advaita, monism to theism. So we're at text 135. Mahaprabhu has quoted the Chatusloki of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Jai Srila Gurudev, in talking with Prakashananda Saraswati. It's their second meeting. The first meeting organized by the Brahmana from Maharashtra, referred to here as the Maharashtrian Brahmin. And then the second meeting at the temple of Bindu Madhava. So this conversation now takes place, I think, at that second meeting, in the environs of the Bindu Madhava temple, famous Vishnu temple in Varanasi. Also famous for the place where Rupa Goswami meets Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after leaving his government service and heading to Vrindavan. He sees Mahaprabhu again. They meet at that place. So Mahaprabhu says, Eita sambandha shuna abhideya bhakti bhagavati pratishloke vyape yarastiti. This is one's eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now please hear about the execution of devotional service. This principle pervades practically all the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhaktyaham ekaya grahya Shradhayatma prayasatam bhakti punati manishta svapakan api sambhavat. Being very dear to the devotees and sadhus, I am attained through unflinching faith and devotional service. This bhakti yoga system, which gradually increases attachment for me, purifies even a human being born among dog eaters.
It's not going on the Facebook.
That is to say, everyone can be elevated to the spiritual platform by the process of Bhakti Yoga. Srimad Bhagavatam 11:14-21. Na sadayati mam yogo na shankyam dharma udhava na svadhyayas tapastyago yata bhaktir mamorjita. Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna said, My dear Uddhava, neither through Astanga Yoga, the mystic yoga system to control the senses, nor through impersonalism or an analytical study of the absolute truth, nor through the study of the Vedas, nor through practice of austerities, nor through charity, nor through acceptance of sannyas can one satisfy me as much as one can by developing unalloyed devotional service unto me. All other systems become secondary. If not secondary, then even superfluous. Ashtanga Yoga, analytical study, Shankyam, this is Shankya Yoga. Tapa, tapa means austerity. Nasvadhyayas tapastyago, tyaga, renunciation, or sannyas. Bhakti is supreme. Bhayam dviti yabine veshatasyad ishad apetasya viparyayo smriti tanmaya yato buddha abhajetam bhaktyayika yesham gurudeva tatma. When the living entity is attracted by the material energy which is separate from Krishna, he is overpowered by fear. Because he is separated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the material energy, his conception of life is reversed. In other words, instead of being the eternal servant of Krishna, he becomes Krishna's competitor. This is called viparyayo smriti. To nullify this mistake, one who is actually learned and advanced worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his spiritual master, worshipful deity and source of life. He thus worships the Lord by the process of unalloyed devotional service. Ebeshuna prema ye mula prayojana pulakashru nritya gita yahara lakshana. Now hear from me what actual love of Godhead is. It is the prime object of life and is symbolized by bodily trembling, tears in the eyes, chanting and dancing. These are some of the ecstatic symptoms that occur when the holy name in its pure form is present in a person's life, is chanted by a person. Asta Sattvika Bhav. Bhav means an emotion. Asta Sattvik Bhav. There's 8 ecstatic emotions. Trembling, going pale, hairs standing on end, limbs contracting, crying, etc. Smaranta smarayascha mito gogha haram harim bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya bibratyatu bibratyut pulakam tanum. Pure devotees develop a spiritual body and symptoms of ecstatic love simply by reminding others of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who takes away everything inauspicious from the devotee. This position is attained by rendering devotional service according to the regulative principles and then rising to the platform of spontaneous love. First Vaidhi Bhakti, and then that leads automatically to Raga Bhakti. Not that one tries to bypass Vaidhi Bhakti and experience the ecstatic symptoms associated with Raga Bhakti prematurely. That leads to what is a condition known as Sahaja. Because although the symptoms of Raga Bhakti appear natural, and they are natural to the Jiva soul, that natural state is covered by conditioning. So it takes some routine work to dissolve that conditioning before the natural state can be revealed. So Sahaja, the word Sahaja means natural. So you get this yoga now is different, like there's a yoga called Sahaja Yoga, like natural yoga. So the Sahaja concept is you just do what feels natural. Do what feels natural to you. But natural in the conditioned state is different than natural in the purified state. So if you do what feels natural to you in a conditioned state, then you will be, and thinking that as spiritual, natural spiritual expression of love, then you will be deluding yourself and perhaps others that follow you. So that's the why Vaidhi Bhakti is recommended. That first, the sentiments or emotions that you may feel to be spiritual, they may not actually be so spiritual. So best to go through a mechanistic process of purification. Somewhat mechanistic. It's not that there's no feeling there. It's not robotic as such. But it is governed under a clear set of rules and regulations coming from the Vedas. That's why it's known as Vaidhi Bhakti, related to Vedic rules and regulations. So that there's no room for mistake, so that you can learn the theory properly, and that kind of like learning musical theory before trying to improvise. If you improvise perhaps without learning theory, then there's a strong chance of you messing everything up. Or if you try to do some creative writing without a proper knowledge of grammar, then what's going to happen? You'll make a fool of yourself. So there's rules and regulations that need to be followed to reach a certain level of qualification, and then one can improvise. Then one can follow the flow of the heart. One can follow one's inspiration. But if one tries to do that before they understand rules, regulations, or before they've been purified by following those rules and regulations, then the whole thing becomes counterproductive. Falls into the pit of Sahajiyism.
Even to know the Sambandha Gyan, in our case, this is the rules and regulations, you say?
Knowledge of Sambandha Gyan is theoretical. And so the practical application of that theory is abhideya. So knowledge of Sambandha Gyan is one thing, but you may have a knowledge of Sambandha Gyan that the jiva is Swarupahai Krishna and Nitya Das. This is Sambandha Gyan of Gaudiya Vaishnavas. That the jiva soul is an eternal servant of Krishna. But then you may go about trying to re-establish that relationship or revive that relationship through some sahaja process.
Yeah. So Sambandha and Abhideya both
Both are what?
are necessary to go little by little through
Of course, yeah.
the process.
Well, Abhideya is based on Sambandha Gyan. There is no Abhideya without Sambandha Gyan.
Yeah.
First you understand the theory and then you apply that.
I was just wondering what were those rules and regulations you were referring to?
Like all the rules connected with sadhana. All of them.
Okay.
That is known as Vaidhi Bhakti. And they have their basis in scripture. All the rules and the rituals and regulations. It's Vaidhi Bhakti. Raga Bhakti, the heart is the ruler. The dictates of the heart. The inspirations of the heart. That's what governs one's bhakti and the expression of that bhakti. The scripture may be there, but it's sidelined. So you could say the gopis' bhakti to Krishna, that's Raga Bhakti. They're not following scriptural guidelines. The guidelines come from their heart. Raga means heart, emotion, like feeling of the heart, deep attachment, love, raga. But sadhana bhakti, there is such thing as raga sadhana bhakti, but sadhana bhakti is generally of the Vaidhi category. Sadhana means you're practicing. Sadhana means that you haven't achieved the goal yet. So you're practicing, and that practice must necessarily be done under guidelines that prevent errant conceptions, that prevent deviations in the practice, that make sure your practice runs along a progressive trajectory. Otherwise, if you mispractice, then you won't get the desired result. So to make sure that the practice is good, proper practice, then there's rules and regulations that are followed. And an abandonment of those rules and regulations, premature abandonment, they're never abandoned as such, but they may be slackened at some stage once the sadhaka, the devotee, reaches a certain level of advancement. But to prematurely conceive of oneself as having reached that level of advancement, and thus premature slackening of rules, generally falls into the category of sahajiyism, where one is conflating material substance, material emotion, for spiritual emotion. That's the essential basis of sahajiyism. Mistaking their material emotion for spiritual sentiment. So mistaking their transitory mental, emotional feelings for raga. In other words, completely misconceiving raga bhakti. And that is why Saraswati Thakur stressed the importance of not prematurely trying to dive into raga bhakti, because of the high possibility of deluding oneself, of confusing it with material emotion, thinking it to be spiritual. And thus, his motto, or the motto of our mat, is Matala Harijana Kirtana Range, Pujala Ragapata Gaurava Bange. Ragapata means the process of the heart, the expression of bhakti that comes from the heart. Ragapata, the path of the heart, Ragapata. And Kirtana, Matala Harijana Kirtana Rangi, that is worshipped through Kirtan, that is kept above one's head in a lofty position. It's not to be brought down and cheapened. So it's kept above, it's worshipped. And how is it worshipped? Kirtan, through Kirtan. Pujala Ragapata, the Ragapata is worshipped. Puja means worship. Worshipped through Kirtan, Sankirtan. And Gurudev says that through offenceless Sankirtan, or chanting, then the Ragapata naturally descends, automatically. There's no need to try and prematurely rush it. It automatically comes in as a result of following the Vaidhi path and as a result of Sankirtan, Kirtan. It naturally comes in its own time. And when it does, then it's the real article.
So very, very few people he would let very few people lead kirtans, chant?
Who?
Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
No? Is that how did you come to that conclusion?
Because I believe that it's not easy to reach that level that we are talking about.
But I wasn't. Leading kirtans is not necessarily connected to raga bhakti.
At the moment of chanting, you said.
Through offenceless chanting, raga bhakti will gradually appear in one's heart, automatically. This is what Gurudev says.
But then, as a consequence, one is allowed, let's say, to chant. To chant, not only...
One is allowed anyway to chant. It's not as a consequence of anything. It's a consequence of one's interest to chant, that one chants.
He would not put strict conditions for someone to chant, to lead a kirtan, or to lead a sankirtan, or...
There were not really. Brahmacharis in the temple would lead.
Are you talking about specifically when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur asked Sridhar Maharaj to lead? That specific song? No, nothing to do with that.
The cultural context of the Gaudiya Math was different than we have today. So there were no ladies leading kirtan. because there were no ladies in the mutt, right? So the people of the mutt would lead the kirtan. I imagine it's like everywhere. Some people like to lead kirtan, some people are better at doing kirtan. So, but that's just natural. We don't need to analyze that. That happens with in every area of life, right? Some people have an affinity for something. But there wasn't any strict code of only certain individuals could lead kirtan or not. You wouldn't see women leading kirtan.
Or dancing.
You wouldn't see women full stop in the temple. Well, maybe, I don't know actually, but women definitely didn't live in the mutt, actively participate. They were more part of the Grihastha congregation. I'm not an expert on the sociology of the Gaudiya mutt, but it was very monastic. It was a male monastic organization. Prabhupada was thinking of forming the same when Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, when he came to America. That was his initial idea. I didn't know about that until I read it in this book called The Hare Krishna Explosion. It's written by one of the first people that joined in 1966, summer of 66, in New York. And he said that Prabhupada told him that I wanted to create a Gaudiya Mutt type model, just men in the ashram. But then he realized that it wouldn't work in the West. That same model that was working in India wouldn't work in the West. Mm-hmm. And there were too many young girls coming, wanting to be involved. So he had to completely re-envision his model for the mission he wanted to create. And then one day he's like, I've got this name, ISKCON. And he bounced it off and said, what do you think about this name? International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And he thought it was a bit, and Prabhupada was like, ha ha ha, that's a good name, ha ha. Anyway, that's what they named it, summer of 66. But, that's traditionally how temples were run. So you wouldn't, in India, you go to the mutt, the Mula Mutt in Navadvip, you wouldn't see women leading so much. It's just not part of the tradition. But these are sociological customs. So, there was no strict rule regarding who could and couldn't lead kirtan. In relation to what you're saying, Guru Maharaj does make some comment, but this is a general principle that needs to be understood. Principles need to be understood, and then you can understand how they're applied, and also when they should and shouldn't be applied. So the general principle is that if a devotee has a connection to divinity, in other words, if they have a certain level of advancement and they're actually connected, there's an inner connection with divinity. Talking of advanced devotees. And if there's an inner connection with divinity, then that divinity flows through whatever that devotee is involved in. So whatever that devotee is connected to, including the persons connected to that devotee, are open to tapping into that divinity. They can be recipients of that. They can be purified by that. That's the whole idea of finding a qualified guru. But Guru Maharaj makes the point, Param Gurudev makes the point in relation to Sankirtan. He says, there may be a Sankirtan party, but it's going to have minimal purifying influence if there is no Shuddha Vaishnav in the party. Shuddha means pure. So if there's only a bunch of people with very minimal realization doing Sankirtan, then the purifying effect is going to be minimal. Not that they're not allowed to do it. So who's necessarily going to measure someone's adhikar, their level of spiritual advancement? Everyone's allowed to sing and lead. But the purifying effect is relative to the advancement of the person heading up that Sankirtan party. He made that comment on at least it's recorded. The comment is recorded. It may be published in one of the books. It may be in Sermons of the Guardian of Devotion, in that series. It likely is. But he also made the comment, I heard Devashish Prabhu recount it, when there was this one ISKCON guru who had a bit of trouble, and he was going to Srila Sridhar Maharaj with his disciples. And they were all even a little bit kind of crazy at that time. They were going through some difficulties. So he had a bunch of wild disciples, and they were going out from the mutt in Navadvip into Navadvip town and doing these wild Sankirtan, Harinam parties around Navadvip. Very exuberant, lots of dancing and howling at the moon and whatever. Anyway, they would come back, and Guru Maharaj, one day when he's coming back, standing on his veranda and watching them coming back from their kirtan and Harinam kirtan, Sankirtan in Navadvip, their Naga Sankirtan. And he was looking there and he made a comment to someone nearby saying, unless, I was trying to think of the exact wording. Anyway, unless there is a Shuddha Vaishnav on the Sankirtan party, it's just noise. It may just be Sahajism. All of that emotion, it's just kind of imitation, Sahaja. Unless there is someone with real spiritual substance on that kirtan party. So he made that comment, observing these guys coming back. Very, very exuberant, high emotion, very, effusive, but maybe not much actual spiritual substance there. And so that's the principle, so that can be applied to other areas of spiritual life as well. For instance, prasadam distribution. People go, what is the spiritually purifying effect of prasadam distribution? And some organizations have this idea where they go out and they distribute tons of, prasad, pots of prasad to people in disaster areas or underprivileged neighborhoods. And believe that it's having a widespread spiritually purifying influence. And it may be, again, if there is a Shuddha Vaishnav underpinning that activity. But if not, then it's just mundane welfare work. You're getting some good karma from filling people's bellies. Simple as that. So, unless the whole thing depends on the purity of the Vaishnav who's supporting the endeavor, endorsing the endeavor. And if there's no Vaishnav endorsing it, for instance, mass food relief is not endorsed by any of our previous acharyas, including Srila Prabhupada. But somehow it gets done. In the mindlessly almost. Because it's not mindful of the instructions of the previous acharyas. Because there's no such instructions. So it's mindless. It's done to build up a reputation for PR, etc. Public reputation. But there's no endorsement of the previous acharyas. If there was, and there was some highly advanced devotee supporting it, then yes, prasad distribution is very spiritually purifying, and powerfully so. Just as purifying as the holy name, because it's substance that's come in contact with Krishna, and thus carries the energy of Krishna, Gauranga. But again, it must be endorsed, it must be supported. In the background, who is endorsed, who is involved with it? This is Guru Maharaj's point. So, back to your point in terms of leading kirtan, that's the basic idea, is that if there's the higher the devotee leading the kirtan, then the higher the potential for spiritual purification coming from that kirtan. And any other kind of service, prasad distribution or whatever it might be. Yes. Text 142. Ataeva Bhagavat Sutrera Artharupa Nija Krita Sutrera Nija Basya Swarupa. Srimad Bhagavatam gives the actual meaning of the Vedanta Sutra. The author of the Vedanta Sutra is Vyasadeva, and he himself has explained those codes in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. The Vedanta Sutra is 666. 555 verses. 555 verses explaining the Vedas in kind of capsule form, capsule aphorisms. And then the Srimad Bhagavatam is considered the purport of that Vedanta Sutra. Artoyam Brahma Sutranam Bharathartha Vanirnaya Gayatri Basya Ruposo Vedartha Paribrimhita Purananam Samarupa Shakshad Bhagavatodita Dvadasa Skanda Yukto Yam Sata Vicheda Samyuta Grantos Tadasha Sahasra Srimad Bhagavata Bidaha. The meaning of the Vedanta Sutra is present in Srimad Bhagavatam. The full purport of the Mahabharata is also there. The commentary of the Brahma Gayatri is also there and fully expanded with all Vedic knowledge. Srimad Bhagavatam is the supreme Purana, and it was compiled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his incarnation as Vyasadeva. There are 12 cantos, 335 chapters, and 18,000 verses. So Mahaprabhu is introducing the Srimad Bhagavatam to Prakashananda Saraswati, who was previously studying the Vedanta Sutra, but under the commentary of Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya's commentary is known as the what? Shankarabhasya or Sharirakabhasya. Generally Sharirakabhasya, which gives a impersonal commentary. But the devotees see the Srimad Bhagavatam as the natural commentary of the Vedanta Sutra. And due to that, because of it being natural theistic commentary, Mahaprabhu is introducing it to Prakashananda Saraswati to reinforce and support his newfound conversion to theism. Sarva Vedeti Hasanam Sharam Saram Samudritam. The essence of all Vedic literatures and all histories has been collected in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sarva Vedanta Sharam Hi Srimad Bhagavatam Ishyate Tadra Samrita Triptasya Nanyatra Syadrati Kvechit. Srimad Bhagavatam is accepted as the essence of all Vedic literature and Vedanta philosophy. Whoever tastes the transcendental mellow of Srimad Bhagavatam is never attracted to any other literature. All right, finish there. Whoever tastes Srimad Bhagavatam, never attracted to anything else, becomes indifferent. That happens at the stage of once the heart is captured. The tasting is done with the heart. Once the heart is captured, generally in spiritual life, then a person, in the words of Param Gurudev, becomes indifferent to everything else. Those things that used to hold sway over one's consciousness, that used to inspire one, excite one, that one would work to achieve, all those things, one becomes indifferent to them. All their power is gone with the onset, with the rise of the sun, the bhakti sun in one's life. All other attractions of this world, one becomes indifferent to them. They lose their power. We read from Revealed Truth by Srila Bhaktisinoda Govindadev Goswami Maharaj. We're in the chapter entitled Serving Under Proper Guidance, and the subchapter titled Dancing, Chanting, Crying and Roaring. And as we noted yesterday and the day before, as we are reading in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mahaprabhu's pastime in liberating Prakashananda from his Mayavad conception, it just so happens that Gurudev is also talking about this exact same pastime in this book, Amnaya Tattva. This book, Revealed Truth, Amnaya Tattva is the Sanskrit word for revealed truth, Sanskrit term. So we're in sync here, the Chaitanya Charitamrita and Gurudev's instructions, both in sync. Mahaprabhu continued his explanation to Prakashananda Saraswati. Then, on the order of my Guru Maharaj, I began chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This is Mahaprabhu saying to Prakashananda. So first he says that I was very simple, I'm a bit of a mudha. He uses the word, murka, right? Murka, foolish. Murka to me. My Gurudev said, Murka to me, like you're foolish. Tomara nahika, you are unqualified. Vedanta adhikar, you don't have the adhikar, the qualification to study the Vedanta. You're a fool. So Mahaprabhu is putting his message across to Prakashananda by self-deprecating himself. And of course, as mentioned yesterday, this is the first step, actually, that Prakashananda needs to take to humble himself. Because with the jnana comes the mada, the pride. And with the mada, the bhakti is blocked. So Mahaprabhu is, in fact, saying, this is what my Guru said to me, but indirectly saying, this is what you need to do, Prakashananda. Humble your pride. And then he's later, this is of course in chapter 7 of Adi Lila, and then later we're reading here. It's the same pastime, it's just put in different places in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And later, then instructing him, once his pride is humbled, then he's open to the revelation that the Bhagavatam can bring. So first, remove the blocks, and remove the toxicity, and then administer the medicine. So Gurudev says, Mahaprabhu says, then on the order of my Guru, I began chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. I didn't know what I was doing, and I did not feel that I was chanting or dancing or crying. I was simply following the order of my Guru to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. For his satisfaction, I was chanting. And as I chanted in this way, power came to me from my Guru, and the Hare Krishna Mahamantra automatically appeared in my heart. I felt the presence of Krishna within me. I felt many different things about Krishna. Krishna began to dance in my heart, and then dance upon my tongue in the form of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. I do not dance actually, or chant, or cry. From within my heart, Krishna dances, and then his name takes control of me. You may see me dancing, chanting, crying, roaring, doing so many things, but they are all the movements of Harinam. It is not actually my desire to do all these things. I am very shy to act in that way, but what can I do? I am following the order of my Guru Maharaj. By his power, this type of result is coming to me and giving me this type of mood. When this began happening to me, I thought I had become mad. So I went back to my Gurudev and asked, Kiba mantra dila goshani, kiba tarabala, japite japati mantra karila pagala. What kind of mantram have you given me? I did not know how powerful this mantram was. When I chant it, I become like a madman. My Gurudev replied, this is the actual result of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. All mundanity stops if you chant this mantram properly. You are very fortunate that you have become filled with such transcendental knowledge and the full ecstasy of Krishna. My Gurudev encouraged me in this way, and also told me to try to spread this consciousness to others. So what can I say? Nama nache, jiva nache, prema dana, jagata nachaya maya kare palayana. Harinam Chintamani 1-258. When someone chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra without offense, Krishna will dance on their heart and then upon their tongue. When I began to follow the order of my Gurudev, the divine name of Krishna began dancing within my heart. As I continued to chant and dance by the will of Harinam, whoever hears that dance of Krishna in the form of sound vibration from my tongue also begins to dance. Then Krishna enters their hearts and begins dancing there. And not only this, the wealth of Krishna Prem that appears in everyone's heart, that Premadana, also dances. I myself do not know anything, but I am seeing that now the whole world has automatically begun dancing with me by the will of Harinam and the wave of Krishna Prem. Harinam has begun dancing and chanting from within my heart, and automatically the attention of everyone's mind has become overcome by that dancing movement. I am simply following the order of my Gurudev and all that is happening. And all of this is happening. I do not actually know what is what. Jai Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Swami Maharaj Gurudev Ki Jai. Hari Hare Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Hare Nama Krishna Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopala Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunatha Echai Koshai Kore Charana Bandhan Jaha Hoite Vignana Sabista Puran Echai Koshai Andra Muni Tanra Das Pada Pada Renu Moda Panchagas Andara Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas Janame Moda E Abhilas Echai Koshai Jabbe Braje Koilo Bas Shri Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Kodila Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pada Padma Kore Asha Hari Nam Sankirtan Kohe Narottama Dasa Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Bolo Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ramo, Rama Ramo, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Saparikara Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Sundar Radha Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Shri Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Rupanuga Guru Varg Ki Jai. Vishvavaranya Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Samaveda Vaishnav Mandala Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Hari. Ki Boo. Radha Ki Boo.